Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here, and I have to say that I absolutely 100% applaud James O'Keefe and Project Veritas for suing Twitter. It's about damn time. It's about damn time that people got together in lawsuits against these companies that are obviously involved in censorship and collusion with not only government entities, okay, partisan politicians, NGOs, etc., okay, but other corporate entities that are acting as these Trojan horses and civilian systems for a much larger agenda, in my opinion. And that doesn't mean I agree with everything O'Keefe stands for. I don't agree with everything O'Keefe has maybe done in the past. Okay, I want to make that very clear. But recently I saw him say he doesn't even identify as a conservative anymore. And I think that's a very, very good indication that maybe he's starting to get it more and more and more and more. Now, on the other side of that, I also want to say that I'm not thrilled, for instance, that this guy is somebody who has worked in the past with people like, I don't know, Eric Prince of Blackwater fame, right? But his methods are extremely effective. Extremely effective. And these lawsuits are huge. And they should set the precedent that these large tech companies must be held accountable for their lies and crimes of censorship and collusion. There's, at the very least, it's completely unfair business practices when you even look at this YouTube model, right? So let's talk about that a little bit. And what we're going to do is we're going to go over this article where basically O'Keefe has said he's been defamed on another level, recklessly, which he's correct on. And because everybody just, fake news, Project Veritas, fake news. And talk about, how this idea that YouTube is some kind of, open market, it's not. It's not. I always show this, but anybody can get this in PDF format. You have to understand that you don't have fair business practices when we all know we live in the digital age now. We all know how effective the internet is on multiple levels of not only consumerism, but entertainment and information, right? And now so many other things, especially with the situations of working, right? Telework and all that Johnny nonsense that, again, is on papers from NASA and DARPA 20 plus years ago that we've been going over, right? But you have the number one search engine in the world, Google, okay? You have the number one video platform in the world, YouTube. You have the number two search engine in the world. Just this, which is also YouTube, by the way, should raise unbelievable alarm bells. Now, you look at Google AdSense and what you can do there, right? That's another huge part of that monopoly. You look at the fact that they are in business with NASA, that very agency that we've been highlighting, Dennis Bushnell and others, right? In quantum computing and artificial intelligence. That's a technopoly. That's beyond, right? And we're still trying to utilize these tools because they are what the vast majority of us are hooked into. But when you can't make an actual living and you can't compete on those platforms, like I've been unable to do now for over a year time, never get my channel reviewed. They haven't reviewed any of these copyright claims that are bull. I still have the 2 strikes, right? We had that instance where I was kicked off and magically put back on. Those are unfair business practices. And essentially, they also say when they tell you claim medical misinformation, etc., that is a type of defamation, is it not? By much more than just a quote-unquote platform. An arm of the media, military, industrial complex that really has no actual competition. Okay? So when Veritas steps in on CNN, and, this has made national news, and you've got these guys talking about geriatric chic, making Biden look, young and hip. I mean, how many times did I talk about the attempts of doing that? Do you remember the watch along where he was in a car and he's all fast? Yeah, he's in a car. Come on, give me a break. He's in a car. He's got aviators on. He's the man. And the guy's nothing but a zombie puppet, period. That's it. That's where he's at. I do want to thank all my Rockfin audience really quick. Justin Morrison says, keep fighting the good fight. Thank you, brother. Eric, thank you so much for that tip. Again, you can't tip over here on YouTube, but we are going to, I do want to get it clear, we are going to go exclusively over to Rockfin for the watch-along segment of this with the CNN stuff. So make sure you make that free Rockfin account. It is important, and there are going to be things you won't be able to see here on YouTube, period, because, I don't want to risk it. I don't want to risk it. I'm glad that Veritas has all this stuff up on their YouTube right now, and good for them, and they're encouraging people to take it and put it on other platforms. Well, that's what we're going to do, and I want to interject my own stuff in here and not risk, having my channel taken down. So the Twitter lawsuit, reckless disregard for the truth. Do you think that's accurate? Let's talk about the accuracy of that for a second. When you look at just alone, forget about going back more than a dozen years when Twitter started, because we could talk about all the disinformation on Syria. We could talk about all the Russian disinformation and slander against WikiLeaks. Right? That's a huge thing. We could talk about the lies that continued this war on terror, right? Regarding not only Al-Qaeda, but ISIS in many ways. Okay? Project Timber Sycamore. What we were really in Syria for. Remember, it wasn't about regime change, even though all the documentation and talking points were we need to remove Assad, he's an evil dictator. It was always, oh no, it's ISIS. Oh no, it's ISIS. And then Putin decides to step in towards the end of the Obama presidency, and everything, just morphs in that narrative. Forget about all that stuff for Twitter to be held accountable for that they never were. They directly started censoring mainstream media about Hunter Biden, right? And those laptops. Now, again, if you were following my work, I had been talking about the Burisma scandal easily since 2018. Luke and I had done, I think, a couple shows where we played old Joey B when he still had a glare of Joey B in him. He wasn't Zombie Joe then. Well, son of a bitch. I was getting on a plane. You're not going to get the $1 billion. You better fire that prosecutor. It was unbelievable. And that kind of worked its way into the mainstream media. Okay? So basically the deal is we need more lawsuits. We need more high-profile videos like this one. And you realize what's happening with these guys, right? And again, this is a good trick. I wouldn't call it a trick. It's a spy technique that he's using. So he sees that these guys, in Tech Valley, that are working with these big companies or media organizations, right? Like, for instance, he got Zuckerberg's guy to start talking about CRISPR and gene editing and eugenics specifically. When I talk about eugenics, it's Kooky McGee Burmis. But when you see an executive over at Facebook admitting that Zuckerberg's heavily invested in it, oh, you still want to be in denial. That's why he's effective. He's getting all these guys on like Tinder and Bumble and Match.com and, sending in, probably younger, attractive women. Good for him. Good for him. Good for him. So that is a great technique. Fantastic. So let's just read some of this, and then we're going to do a full watch along all 3 CNN videos, because it's also important to know that the next big thing, other than the geriatric chic Biden stuff, is they're going to be selling you on climate change and associating with these type of COVID measures. It's like it's going to replace one another. And the thing is that we're seeing more and more and more of this, right? The world needs equivalent of pandemic lockdowns every 2 years to meet Paris carbon emission goals, right? And then, Bloomberg, we must start planning for a permanent pandemic. Okay? So I am applauding O'Keefe and what he's doing. James O'Keefe, founder and CEO of Project Veritas, filed a defamation lawsuit on Monday against Twitter being permanently suspended from the platform last Thursday. Twitter banned O'Keefe after the hashtag #ExposeCNN trended in response to Project Veritas bombshells report showing footage of CNN technical director Charlie Chester admitting the program put out propaganda to smear President Donald Trump. And again, why you're kicking him off? Because he's effective. None of this is about keeping you safe. When I hear, we're keeping people safe, well, we'll talk about that on the other side. We'll talk about that on Rockfin because we can't talk about that here. Folks, if you're on the YouTube end, thumbs it up, subscribe, and share. Only 50 thumbs. Come on. Can we do better? Make sure you make that free account, okay? Go over to Rockfin. You make a premium account. That's a great way to support me. We're going to go do the watch along with all this. It's going to be probably another 20, 30 minutes long. Again, I think that O'Keefe is doing a good thing, not only in the regards of exposing CNN, but exposing the technopoly, showing the hypocrisy. And quite frankly, we need more of this, whether I agree with him on everything politically. I don't. And again, I think he should go after Fox News next. That honestly, because Fox News is just as bad. We all know it. So make the free account. The other links down below are how you can support me financially. At Jason Burmis is the Venmo. JasonIsVoid@yahoo.com. That is the PayPal. And again, guys, thank you so much. Love you, YouTube, but we're not going to take any risks of getting kicked off, and we're going to flip on over to Rockfin. And by the way, over at Rockfin right now, also free, is last night's 2+ hour episode of The Union of Unwanted. So you may want to